not a real streamer, or if you haven't done that before, and if you do your crazy microphone switching the other way. Yeah, I was turning up the music and turning down my voice, which is a bit crazy. The way we've set this up is I've got like 4 screens going, and it's really fun, and I actually can't see the volume side. So thank you all for your great feedback. Look at that, we're iterating already. All right, so who's excited for Open Source Friday, the Australia edition? We've got a very, very special guest here. He's about to come on. Joey's like, yay. B. Herman's, yay. I'm so glad it's better. I'm sorry. Second Twitch session here. Let's see how this goes. Yeah, Simon. Welcome to the Twitch, the dark side of the Force. Nah, it's all fine. All right, so who's ready to meet our special guest? I want to see some thumbs up or some emojis or something in the chat. B-Dougie's saying, welcome back. Mish is not sleeping. Yes, if anyone saw, I was on the Microsoft Build stream. I hosted 4 hours on the Microsoft Twitch Build channel and then did like another 20-something hours of moderating, so it's a bit crazy. Okay, Joey's ready. All right, let us welcome in our amazing guest from Australia. We have Gary Pendergast from WordPress. How are you going,
Hi.
Gary?
I am going really, really well. It's great to be here.
It is so lovely to have you here. We're excited to have you here. And yeah, we hope you enjoy your time here on GitHub, on the GitHub Twitch
Absolutely.
channel. So Gary, you're from my side of the world. Tell us where you're from exactly and how you came to be here today.
I am, well, yes, I'm from Melbourne, Australia. I work for Automatic, and I do a lot of work on WordPress. And projects around there. It's kind of just been a thing that I've been doing for a long time.
Very, very awesome. And how have you been enjoying Melbourne during this crazy ISO time?
It's pretty wild. Like it's in that there is nothing happening at all. It's just kind of like everywhere around the world. It's
I know, right? It's kind of just like...
trying to just stay at home.
I just like went out the other day for a walk. I try and go for a walk every day. And I went out for a walk and I was like, wow, this place is just dead. I mean,
yeah.
Some people like it, right? But I'm like, yes, I want to see more things and people.
Yeah, there's not much going on.
Not a whole lot going on at all, but that's okay. We're getting there. Now, Gary, you are one of the maintainers of WordPress, correct?
Yeah.
All right, let's talk through that journey. How did you come to be one of the maintainers of WordPress?
Oh, wow. So it kind of actually goes back to before I was involved in WordPress at all. I was working for MySQL. And so I kind of ended up working there for a few years and had a lot of experience, and then ended up working at Automatic, and kind of started to become involved in contributing to the WordPress open source side of things as well. And then it kind of became a thing that, well, I had all this experience with MySQL, and WordPress needed someone to look after that area of the code. So that kind of became my thing, and it just grew from there.
And it's gotten better and better since, right?
Absolutely.
Awesome. I absolutely love it. Now we have some great people in the chat already. Just so the chat knows, if you have any questions whatsoever about WordPress, open source maintaining, we're going to be covering a lot of these things. But if you have specific questions yourself, we would love to hear them. And I'm sure, Gary, you would love to answer them, correct?
Absolutely. Always love questions.
Yeah. So let's talk about MySQL for a bit. So what kind of... Yeah. I want to say like experiences or knowledge, what did you take from MySQL into when maintaining WordPress?
So I kind of, I was, before MySQL, I was a web developer generally, but then when I was working for MySQL, I was working as a support engineer. And I think that kind of gave me a lot of interest in like solving the real world problems that people have, and often having to dig into some of the complicated ways that people use software. And so that bringing that into WordPress, and WordPress is so popular that there are just countless number of ways that people use it, that people build websites with it. And so kind of having that experience, bringing that to the WordPress world has made it a lot easier to, I think, kind of think, okay, how can we build stuff that will work for everyone?
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm interested to know in the chat who actually uses WordPress here, and what have you used it for? I myself, I have 2 blog websites. Both of them, Gary, you'll be happy to know, are using WordPress. I also happen to be a journalist in my spare time. What even is spare time these days? And we use WordPress for that site as well. And so I think like it's just such a great, easy tool to use. And so I have a lot of questions. I'm still interested to see what other people have. But YG Dev already has one question, and we're just going to go straight into it because why not, right? Twitch streams, let's do it. So YG Dev says, at WordPress, do you use GitHub Actions, and how are you using GitHub Actions? So for context, YG Dev has been hanging around the Microsoft build stuff and saw a bunch of our stuff we did on GitHub Actions and is secretly interested in what you would like to do and how you use Actions.
We have started using GitHub Actions. We're kind of a lot of our existing CI stuff is on Travis, but we've been experimenting with Actions a fair bit in our Gutenberg repository. And so it's been pretty successful. Like the folks who've been building it have all found it nice to work with. It's easy to get things up and running. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, well, I think one of the things at GitHub, right, is we're very brand agnostic. We want developers to use the tools they use best, and so you'll have a look, like even like we have integrations with Travis CI and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's just great that people are able to use these kind of tools to do what they do best, right? Joey Bentley's in the chat as well, is saying, he's been helping beta test some sites as well using WordPress. Now, tell us how. I'm actually interested because if I have a look on the website right now, just WordPress.com, it's saying that 36% of the web is currently built on WordPress. Obviously, I'm using it for a blog. I've just mentioned I'm using it for my journal articles. What other things are people using WordPress for?
I mean, it's pretty wild. So it's. I think one of my favorite examples is actually there's a gaming company in New Zealand called Gamefruit, and they do like a little web-based games, JavaScript games, that kind of thing, and you can make your own games with their tools, but all of the back end of it is entirely WordPress. Like it's all stored in WordPress, but the front end is a game editing tool.
That is pretty cool. Is that definitely the coolest thing you've seen built on WordPress?
I mean, that's like that's just the wildest thing of so completely different to what most people would use WordPress for.
Yeah, because I mean, when I think of WordPress, I think of blog articles, journal sites, and things like that. I would never have thought someone would build like a game out of it. No less in New Zealand. Do we have any New Zealanders here? I like the New Zealanders. There might be a couple of them. If they're coming from my chat, I know there's a few New Zealanders that drop into my chat. We have a bit of a rival between Australia and New Zealand. Now, B Doggy's got a question as well and saying, you mentioned Gutenberg. What is Gutenberg? Yeah.
So Gutenberg is a project that started, I think about 3-4 years ago. And we were looking at just rewriting the editing experience in WordPress, just completely rethinking it. And it iterated for a couple of years and eventually was released in WordPress 5.0 about a year and a half ago. It's it's a big project to rewrite kind of the central experience of a content management system, and we had to get it to a point where we felt that it was better than the existing thing that was already there. But it's gone really well. It's been we've of course been iterating and improving it for the since it was launched. It's kind of the base for the mobile apps as well, because it's all built in React. Then it can be compiled with React Native. It's been a really good experiment, and ultimately a open source product that is transforming how WordPress does things.
Yeah, nice. Now we've got a really good question from the queue, and I'm gonna add a little bit to this question because I think it's a really good opportunity for you. So the question is, are you full-time paid on WordPress, FOSS, or somewhere in between? So my add-on to that is, this is a great chance for you to talk about GitHub sponsors.
So I am full-time paid on FOSS. So I have previously for about the last 5 years or so, I was solely focused on just on WordPress, the WordPress open source project. Just for a bit of a change, I've been switching up to some of Automatic's other products, which are again all open source. I have been extremely privileged to be paid full time for years to work on open source software.
Amazing. That is so cool. Now let's jump into a couple of things here. So this is what I was chatting about before, which is 36% of the web is built on WordPress. Which is awesome. This is how I found out, giant stat in your face, you can't miss it. Now, tell me what your GitHub is, Gary. Is it Gary?
So it's Pento.
Pento. How did you manage to get that username?
It registered very early. I can get it on some.
Early.
I have it on some services. I don't have it on others.
Now, I love your profile picture as well. Now, I can see obviously the orgs that you've contributed to, of WordPress being a couple of them. What else have you got here? More WordPress, open source maintainers. So you're part of the open source maintainer community, yes?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Would you like to tell us about the open source maintainer community for those who don't know about it?
Yeah, so that's been a cool thing that GitHub has been doing for engaging with open source people who maintain open source projects to kind of figure out what things we need to be able to manage our projects better. It's been really interesting to see what a lot of other projects are doing for managing. Particularly, there are plenty of other projects that are of a similar size to WordPress. So seeing how they've solved their scaling issues is really interesting.
Yeah. So the open source maintainer community is a group of maintainers, as you just mentioned, and we absolutely love supporting maintainers because, as we know, a good chunk of the world, I think it's over 60% or something crazy like that, right? 60% of software is built on open source. So by supporting maintainers like yourself and supporting projects like WordPress, we're able to support open source and continue to make open source and software available and sustainable. Now, as you just mentioned, we provide a lot of really exciting things for you as maintainers. But what's been some of you kind of touched on it, but what's been some of your, the best things you've gained from being in the community? And you kind of just touched on it by saying you learned from other people. What's been some of, the best parts about being part of that community?
I think it really is the people. It's bringing together a communities of people who share whatever the topic happens to be. For the maintainers community, it's being an open source maintainer, having that experience of maintaining large projects. For WordPress, it's people who've used WordPress or who contribute to it or who build sites with it. It's that whole thing of building communities that you can where you can find people that you can get along with and actually gain friendships out of it and that kind of thing. the tech is kind of just it's a vehicle for getting there. The important thing is the relationships.
Yeah, definitely. If we look at the community, I've just put it up here on the screen. There's like over 1,000 maintainers in this community, right? And I've done startups before. I've been part of communities, and I've been part of those types of programs before. And what we found is, I've started a couple of companies before, but what we found as founders is it wasn't so much about the program that we're part of and what the program was offering us. It was more about the people that we met and the other people who were going through the program with us. And that's what I'm hearing from you, right? Is it's not just about, what GitHub is doing for you in this sense. It's about being part of this community where there's, over 1,000 other maintainers where you can learn from them. You can learn from their top tips. You can learn from their experiences and their mistakes and their wins and their losses. And you can all celebrate together and come together as a community, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Yeah, and do you know any other really cool maintainers from Melbourne or Australia? Well, it is a very small group in Australia.
It is a small group. No, I haven't been so involved in the local scene.
Mm-hmm. So you've been more involved in where are some of like your most favorite people from this community? Where are they located?
I think like a lot of it, I've got into it through the people, other people in WordPress who are also part of the community. So it's like a lot of my primary hanging out is within the WordPress world, and then like I tend to be a little bit more of a lurker in the open source maintainers.
So for our people in the Twitch chat, lurking is a very, very familiar concept to you. Working the Twitch chat, and now that more people are working from home, there's been this new surge in working and lurking, which is people working at home and then having a Twitch stream on the second computer or another device and just lurking in the stream. So the concept of lurking is very, very familiar to this group, I think. And we've got Simon here who's from Canberra. Hello! I love seeing Aussies. Do you want to give a shout out to Simon as well?
Hey, Simon.
Yay, I love seeing other Australians and New Zealanders. And I mean, this is a very, very good time for us. Like, it is 2:30 p.m. our time. Some of like the best and coolest build content wasn't on our time zone, so we're really happy to bring you these type of open source chats on your time zone, which is really exciting. So keep sending in all your questions. It is really fun and really awesome. Now, if we go on to... Now, what was that WordPress site actually you mentioned before about the video game?
That was Gamefruit.
Gamefruit.
F-R-O-O-T.
F-R-O-O-T. I love it. Alright, let's check this out. So it's a game editor. So is it? Yeah, make.gamefruit.com?
Yep.
Is it? Okay, this is kind of mind-blowing how this is done on WordPress.
At least I think it's still WordPress. I haven't checked for a little while, but it was...
Does it look very similar to what
it looks? It looks the same thing.
Yeah, it looks the same. But, okay, even if it wasn't on WordPress, still, it looks exactly like it does. Like, this is really cool. I actually really like the graphics and stuff of this game. So it's built out in New Zealand, yeah?
Yeah.
Yep, and being on an Australian time zone and then being in New Zealand, did you have any hand in, like, helping them get started or supporting them or anything like that?
No, I kind of just met them through the WordPress community. We have, I kind of figure that New Zealand conferences in New Zealand are basically local. It's only a few hour flight, so I kind of get to hang out with New Zealand folks as well. And it's, it's just kind of getting to know people in the community. And I happened to meet the folks who made this one.
100%. Now, it looks pretty cool. It spins up like a game dev environment almost in the browser, which is really cool. Now, you mentioned catching up with people in Australia and New Zealand. What are some of your most favourite conferences you've been to in Australia/New Zealand? I've heard of a couple and I want to hear your thoughts.
I think my all-time favourite has to be Webstock, which I don't think they haven't had one for a few years, but they're amazing. they always have top-notch speakers. They always have great themes, and it's an amazing venue that they use. We've been fortunate enough to be able to sponsor them for a few years, so it's really a really good conference.
Nice. And have you heard of KawiCon?
Of which one?
I don't know how to say it. So I'm probably saying it wrong, but it's like KawiCon. And it's in Wellington as well.
Is it like KawaiiCon?
KawaiiCon? Yeah, I think that's how you say it. Lots of people have been dropping in my chat and telling me I need to go to this. Now, I actually had this on my list. This doesn't look like it right here because this is their like random landing page for like COVID ISO times. But people have been dropping in my chat telling me I need to go to this. And I had it on my list of like, yes, I'm going to go to this. If we look at their Twitter, it's probably a bit more like dev stuff. And yeah, BW saying if anyone else has conferences they enjoy attending, let us know because we'd love to check them out. Yeah, so it's mainly InfoSec, but I hear a lot of developers go to it as well. So, like, not just. Oh yeah,
I think I have heard of that, but no, I haven't been there.
Yeah, and like they have like cool themes every year. So this was from like one of their last themes. Like they had like an anime style theme. From the website, it looks like their next theme was meant to be like, or is going to be, a Jurassic Park theme.
I mean, I can't say no to a Jurassic Park theme.
I mean, I know, right? I'm like, I gotta go to this. Like, I mean, look at this dude. This kind of reminds me of the Microsoft Build channel they did when they had the cooking show. So when the Australian stream went down for Microsoft Build, they went back to the US and they were like, oh, we've lost our team from Australia. Let's just, let's start cooking. And so Seth, the guy from Microsoft, was teaching Dana, who has no idea about cooking, how to cook from a socially safe distance. And she was like, it was very funny. And you'll be happy to know as well that the Australian team did Tim Tam Slams live on stream.
Nice. So, that's the important thing. You have to really have to share Australian culture there.
Always the important team. Now, I kind of hinted at it before, but how much do you know, Gary, about the GitHub Sponsors program? GitHub
Sponsors, I saw it launch, but I haven't actually dug into it, kind of by way of being employed full-time already. I haven't had to figure out a way to be able to do open source and be paid.
Is GitHub Sponsors something you might consider for WordPress itself? Because you know you can have organizations sponsored as well as individuals?
I did not know it that you could sponsor organizations.
You can sponsor like a project, right? I shouldn't say organization because an organization can do the sponsoring as well, but you can have a project be sponsored under GitHub Sponsors. So if anyone doesn't know about GitHub Sponsors, it is an amazing project. Literally millions of dollars have been paid out in GitHub Sponsors, which is really exciting. I mean, you Gary, as you just mentioned, a very privileged position to be able to work full-time and work on open source, which is amazing. Lots of people aren't so lucky, so we launched GitHub Sponsors to help people and to... I mean, one of the things about maintaining projects, and I'll be interested to hear your thoughts on this, Gary, is that one of the ethical things about using open source is that you contribute back, right? If you use some piece of open source, if you've noticed a bug or a vulnerability or anything like that, you can, you're kind of like expected, right, to contribute back. But not everyone can contribute to open source. Like, so many people use WordPress, right? So many people use, like, I'm using OBS right now to stream, which is another open source project. But not everyone can contribute. Either they don't know enough about development, or they don't have enough time, or they just simply don't know where to start. And so sponsors is another great way for people to contribute if they don't have the time or the knowledge to actually contribute to open source. And this is one of the reasons why we launched it. So I'd be interested to hear your thoughts around that, Gary.
Yeah, I think I mean we live in a capitalist society, so it's people need to be able to make money to survive. And so if you're able to help open source maintainers who often they've kind of been doing it a lot of the times just for the love of it for so long, being able to sponsor them so they can make it their job, it's a really, really cool thing, and it's kind of a good thing to do.
Yeah, and I think it's like, I mean, it's now available in 32 countries, right? 32 different regions. And this was something that when we launched it, we had some developers going, I can actually seriously consider a career in open source now. Like I can, you know, because a lot of them were doing their open source project was their main passion, but they obviously couldn't sustain it without income. And so you see lots of people used to have like Patreon links or PayPal links or GoFundMe links or things like that. So this is a way to like integrate everything in. And for the first year we launched sponsors, we matched dollar for dollar every sponsorship dollar that went through as well. We're seeing a few people in the chat. YG Dev has sponsors enabled. Simon Kropp has sponsors enabled, which is exciting. So if you haven't got it, go join the waitlist. We're releasing people all the time. The other cool thing about sponsors is if you do the sponsoring, either via your organization, so your organization could sponsor, or your individual profile can sponsor as well, you get a really cool sponsorship badge. Is anyone in the chat actually sponsoring someone so we can go see what that badge looks like? I also noticed you've got the very cool Arctic Code Vault contributor badge, Gary.
I mean, I thought it was a great idea. Like my code is finally locked down the bottom of a mine in the Arctic where it belongs.
I like it. Just like, it's in the Arctic, right?
Yeah.
We'll chat about that in a second. But B Dougie has sponsors on. Should have figured. So you should have a little badge, right? Yeah, here we go. So B Dougie is also an Arctic Code Vault contributor. Developer program member. That's cool. B Dougie, how do I get that one? I want that one. I should have that one too, right? And you can see, yes, B Dougie is a GitHub staff member. Yes, we love you, B Dougie. You're awesome. B Dougie is actually one of my teammates. He is very, very cool and comes from over the US. It's top secret! That's no fair. You can see B Dougie has like a little GitHub sponsor, which means B Dougie. So if we had a look back at, so YG Dev's got GitHub sponsors. So let's just have a quick look to show you what that looks like. YG Dev. So if you have a look, this is somebody who's got sponsors enabled on their site. What's your thing again? It is YG, isn't it? Can't type today. That is not you. This is it. This is Yogi. So you can see like there's this badge that pops up that says I can sponsor Yogi. So that's what it looks like as a person who is being sponsored. For B Dougie, who is a sponsor, so he's the one that's giving up money, he gets the really cool badge there as well, which, you know, makes the profile look a little bit nicer and cool, and, you know, can kind of show off the fact that you love open source and contribute to open source. So yeah, that's what we do. Now, what was the other thing you just mentioned to me about? Oh, the Arctic Code Vault. So yes, so tell me how excited you are about that while I pull it up, because you just said all your stuff is in the Arctic. Not everyone knows about the Arctic Code Vault yet.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Like I've written a lot of terrible code in my time, and so I think putting it into a frozen vault is probably the best way to keep the world safe from it.
Yeah. So if anyone doesn't know, and again, this doesn't show up very nicely because I have dark mode enabled, it doesn't quite work. But if everyone doesn't know, in the Arctic, we as humans, like humanity, as in human society, have what's called a seed bank, which means every single species of flora is stored in a frozen Arctic vault that so for some reason, you know, another meteor hits or whatever, we've actually got all those seeds stored in a seed bank, so we can, you know, basically repopulate the world with plants and trees, which is really cool. And then what we decided as GitHub is like, well, if there's a seed bank, why don't we have a code vault? Why is it like we're storing the world's like flora in case something goes wrong? Why don't we store the world's code if something goes wrong? And so we actually, internally, we found out about this at our company summit mid last year, which was very exciting for all of us. We couldn't say anything about it until it was announced. And now it was announced earlier this year. And anyone who had contributed open source code, so a couple people are asking in the chat why I don't have it, but anyone who contributed open source code prior to February 2020 this year, your code will be in the vault, in the Arctic. like in a literal vault in the Arctic. It's pretty cool, right, Gary?
It's pretty amazing. Like it's a cool thing to do. A very cool thing.
It's very awesome. You know, like trust GitHub to come up with something cool like that. And so if you haven't got your badge enabled on your site yet, it may take a little bit of time. It is still rolling out. It is something that only got released very recently. So most there's a lot of maintainers, staff members, sponsors who are getting rolled out first, and just I don't know how it works, but it might be to do something with your like GitHub, the age of your account, how it's rolling out. But if you contributed to any kind of open source prior to February, it'll be there. It'll be there waiting for you when you're ready. All right, so we've got another question from my bank of amazing questions that Brian gave me beforehand. Is there a WordPress foundation that takes care of the funding of open source things?
So there's a WordPress foundation. So you showed WordPress.com before, which is that's kind of a hosted version of WordPress that's owned by Automatic, and that's one of the products that kind of makes money so we can keep building things. And then WordPress.org is the open source project, and then as you found showing the WordPress Foundation is kind of it's a small foundation that's mostly to do with holding the trademarks and that kind of thing to kind of keep them keep them safe. Though the trademarks and all that kind of thing were originally owned by Automatic, but in order to in case the company didn't work out, for example, then we wanted we needed to keep the trademarks safe. So they were transferred to the WordPress Foundation.
Yep, there's all the trademarks. They're all here, and you can donate to the WordPress Foundation. So we should look at getting WordPress sponsored as well. Give it another revenue stream. So we can
got to check it out. Yeah.
Now, it's a very good question coming from Simon, and Simon is from Australia, as we just mentioned as well, from Canberra, and he's got a great question. And that question is, it's actually to both of us. I'm going to let you answer first, Gary. And that is, are we working from home simply because of COVID right now, or is this just normal for us? I'm going to let you answer first.
I mean, it's not really normal either way, but yes, I always work from home. I've been working from home for, I think, about 15 years now. Like I don't think I could go back to working in an office. The having to commute and having to like wear a suit and all that kind of thing. Like I wear a suit to look good, not to wear as a daily uniform.
I like that. I wear a suit to look good, not as a daily uniform. Can someone clip that, please? I'm going to put that like on a banner or, a sticker or something. That is great. I love it.
And so, yeah, like it's at least kind of when all this happened, then I had the experience with the working from home part, but also it's just such a wild time. It's nothing. It's working from home, but it's more like, I think a description I've seen is trying to work during a global pandemic whilst also being at home.
Yeah. And I think that is like, that's something, I wrote a blog on this a few weeks ago, but people are like, oh, this is working from home, this is what it's like, and all these people, it's like, this isn't working from home. This is working during a global global crisis, which is a pandemic. And I've seen more colourful language used there too. But you're right, this is not normal working from home. Like I know B Dougie, right? B Dougie works from home as well in the chat, and it's definitely different. people often have husbands or wives or partners at home now, kids at home. You can't go outside in some countries. This is not normal, right? Like I often, to go back to the question, like, do I work from home usually? Sometimes, right? I'm also just noticing that my t-shirt just really blends nicely into the WordPress Foundation, so that's really cool. But I can work from home if I want to, but I have a couple of offices in the city that I go to. I live really close to the city, so it only takes me like 10-15 minutes to walk. So that's nice, but it's not just about that. Like even on the days I choose to work from home, I can still go out for my coffee meetings. I can still, play sport at the end of the day. I can still, call up a friend and go see a movie on a weekend. Like, this is just not normal. And I think not having that face-to-face interaction, like, in different situations, like, again, I don't work in an office per se, I work in like a co-working space that I'm part of due to my affiliation with startups and things like that. And it's just like having that and just being able to go in and just see people when you want to. Like, I'm not forced to go in there, right? I can just go there when I want to. I can have coffee chats with people and meetings, and I'm not. Whereas right now, like, I don't really have a home office. I have a desk in my bedroom. My bed is this far away from me, and there's a wall here. Like, I'm surrounded, right? Like, this isn't normal. Like, I want to get out and do things. Like, I have a tiny little, house. So, yeah, it's a bit crazy. And so I think that is definitely the thing people need to keep in mind when they're talking about this work from home, is this is not normal working from home. And even the people who, like you, Gary, and like me and BW, who are used to working from home, it's still not normal, right? I mean, Gary, how often do you travel for work or for conferences?
A lot. Like, particularly being in Australia, then it adds up pretty quickly. But I'll usually be doing 100,000 plus kilometers a year of flying. But that's not happening at the moment. Like, all of the major WordPress conferences have been cancelled. All of despite Automatic is entirely distributed. Everyone works from home or from a co-working space or wherever they want to. But we have team meetups, and we have a full company meetup once a year, and there'll be various other meetups, but there's none of that at the moment. So even working from home, I'd usually have some sort of regular, actual in-person contact with the people I work with. But everything's on hold. I know, right? And I think that's something people forget. Like, before this, I think I was home. Okay, to give you some context, I had my birthday party, or had a birthday earlier this year, and my birthday was in February. I scheduled my party for the end of April because that was the first free weekend that I had, amongst all the travel that we had scheduled. GitHub Satellite was supposed to be in Paris, and we were supposed to be, going to these places. We had our team summits, just like you said, Gary, and these things. And so even if I do work from home, it's like, I'm working from home for a couple of days before I jump on a plane and go to wherever for some whatever conference, right? And I think that is just so, like, what we don't get, being like working from home during a crisis. Like, it's so different, and people just really need to understand that. I also love Simon's comment in the chat right now, is that, Gary, you've got an ISO beard going. It's not an ISO beard. This is standard everyday beard. I like it. I've seen some crazy things people are doing in ISO, like growing their beards or getting their partners to chop their hair or crazy things. So Gary, what's some crazy things you've been doing in ISO? First of all, just some crazy personal stuff you've been doing that's not too, nothing higher than PJ, and then just some cool, crazy stuff you've been working on for work as well. But let's start with the personal stuff first. I've got 2 small children, so a lot of it is, how do you keep 2 small children occupied all day, every day, when they would usually be at school or kinder or something like that? So there has been a substantial increase to the amount of Lego in this house. I'm not going to lie, I have bought some sets for myself as well. Oh, which ones? Go on, tell. I got the new Land Rover one. Ooh, that was pretty cool. And I decided to get some of their powered stuff, like the remote control things, because I wanted to try programming their stuff. It's kind of weird, but it's cool. It's fun to play around with. I've got my eye on the Batmobile, the 1989 model. That is huge. Yeah, well, I do have the Star Wars Millennium Falcon Ultimate Collector's Edition that I haven't started yet, because I promised my friend that we were going to build it together, and I got it just before ISO, and so he hasn't been able to come over. Oh no. So, well, maybe they should buy one as well, and then we can kind of build one over stream. Oh, that would be interesting. All right, guys, today we're doing part 59 of the Millennium Falcon build. Where's that piece gone?
All right, other things you've been doing. Increasing Lego. I love it.
Yeah, it's just generally trying to have some sort of routine. Like there's no going to the gym or anything like that. So I ended up honestly, like the one thing I found that worked was I got some Olympic rings, and so I just hang them up on outside, and I'm able to do some body weight exercises on that. It gets
cool.
me a little bit of exercise, but
I have seen a significant increase in the number of Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter ads for home gym equipment. Like,
yeah, I haven't gone the
nuts.
whole home gym thing. Like, I'm not going to go and shell out for a huge amount of weight and a squat rack and all that kind of thing. But I figure this will tide me over until gyms are allowed to reopen.
Mm-hmm. So, Lego, kids, gym, anything else?
Exercise.
Have you been baking or cleaning? That seems to be a thing in ISO.
Not more than usual. Like, it's been a bit of a little bit of it, but also like we tend to cook stuff a fair bit at home anyway, so it's not such a big change to be at home.
Nice. All right, now on the work front, now we're seeing lots of people change, the way they work or their timelines or whatever. What kind of cool, exciting, or fun or different things have you been doing on the work front during ISO?
I think a lot of it has been about just making sure that people know that like we were talking about before, that it's not a normal time. So it's okay if you're not feeling that you can be as productive, or it's okay if you suddenly need to take the morning off because the kids need to be wrangled and or you need to have a call with the doctor or something like that. So it's I think that's been one of the most important things. Other than that, like there've been some interesting experiments already, because we don't have the in-person meetups. Then we had one division that tried a virtual meetup, and so
how did that go?
I think it went pretty well. Like I was just observing quietly. I wasn't at the meetup, but it was pretty cool, and like it was kind of a combination of social time, like using Zoom or whatever, and also kind of like a learn up kind of thing. People can present on whatever their particular expertise is and share the knowledge around. And so it's certainly not a replacement for an in-person meetup, but it's something as to switch things up.
And I think that's true, right? And let's touch on this topic because it's similar to the whole work from home situation, right? And that's like people say, oh, we're never going to go back to virtual events, to in-person events after this. Virtual events are the way to go because we've shown that we can do it. We've shown we never have to work in an office again, and offices are going to change. You're shaking your head because you've got the same thinking I do, I think. So let's unpack that for anyone in the crowd who's just like either thinking that way or hearing those arguments a lot.
The virtual events are they're certainly a great thing to have, but they're not going to replace in-person events. Not going to replace because I mean you kind of for people who do attend events regularly, then one of the most important tracks is called the hallway track.
Yeah,
it's the conversations that you have with the people you meet. It's not necessarily. It's certainly you get to see these talks from really interesting, really smart people and get to ask questions of people who know their stuff. But it's actually those serendipitous conversations that you have just with random people that you happen to meet.
Yeah,
and you can't replace that with an online event.
100%, right? And I think that was something that came out of GitHub Satellite. Like, everyone loved it, right? They're like, this is great. It's amazing. More people attended than obviously would have been able to usually, because it doesn't matter where you live, you could tune in. But for the people who usually go, it's like, oh, well, I mean, I like the content and I probably saw more content than I actually do if I actually go to the event. But I'm missing out on seeing the people and seeing my teammates and doing all those things I actually go to a physical event for. So I don't think it's going to happen in future is it'll be a bit of a mix, right? There will be a virtual track almost for people to be able to tune in from everywhere around the world and have all that goodness of, doesn't matter what time zone you're in or where you're from or if you can't afford the flights or whatever, right? But there is
I think that's...
Yeah, I think you're right.
That has to be part of it.
That'll still be part of it, but it is still so valuable to have that face-to-face interaction. And I don't think it's going, and I really hope people aren't thinking along that line of, we're never going to have in-person events again. Because it's like work from home, right? I mean, you work from home, and I can work from home as well. But I have very strong opinions that this isn't going to be the way to move forward for every company. What's your thoughts on that?
No, and ultimately, like we're certainly seeing that companies are discovering that they can have a distributed thing. Like Facebook just announced that they're going to make it an option for employees to work from home.
And Twitter as well, I think.
Twitter did a bunch of things like Squarespace. There was a few others that I saw listed. There's a heap of companies that were previously 100% based in offices that have realized, we can still get the work done with people being at home.
Yeah.
And so it's certainly, I think that's going to become more of a thing, that people will be more will be working from home more and more. But then conversely, I think that's going to increase the value of in-person events, because ultimately as humans, we're social creatures. Like we enjoy having contact with real actual people. So if you're not working from an office, if you're not working directly with people on a day-to-day basis, then you're going to be wanting to go to events and hang out with real people.
I think so. I think that's the key word that you mentioned there, right? Is it's an option. It's we now know we're able to do it. And I think being able to do it makes it so much easier. I mean, obviously, we all work in tech, right? And most of the people in the chat are going to be working in tech. But I think it's a really key thing to note for government organizations and things. Now, government organizations and stuff like that, they often need to work in an office, right? Because of the way things work. But they now know they can work from home. They have the option to work from home. So when, winter comes around and the flu season comes around, people don't have to go, just got to trudge into work today, just pop a few pills, go into work, spread it around. People will now go, and the companies and the organizations will go, if you're feeling sick, stay home, because we know that you're able to work from home, even if you feel like okay. Because most time, if you've got the flu or a cold, you still feel okay. We don't want to give it to everyone else, but people don't want to take sick days because they don't have sick days left. They can't work from home because their company isn't set up to work from home. We know that's a big thing with government organizations and big corporates, but now they can. And I think that's a really, really exciting prospect, right?
Yeah, I think it's really, really cool to see that. I think that we're certainly going to, when kind of whatever the other side of this pandemic looks like arrives, when we get there, we're going to end up with a society that kind of returns a little bit to how it was, but there's going to be some things that are going to stick around. And one of them is going to be exactly that when people are feeling a little bit sick, instead of either choosing to go into work or using a sick day, they can just do their work from home.
I just think it's going to be very, very exciting for us. Now, I've got a couple of questions in the chat. Sorry, Simon. We kind of got off on a tangent, but Simon's asking, do you think during this time, and I'm not sure if you've noticed on WordPress, but you might have seen it elsewhere as well, do you think contributions and like maintaining, and mainly contributions, but also use of open source, do you think that has increased because everyone's at home and people have more free time to contribute to code?
It's been kind of a collection of extremes. It depends upon the person. Like some people have a whole lot more time and they're able to contribute a lot more. Other people suddenly have no time at all.
Yep.
One of the largest factors I think has been whether or not you have kids. Just having kids at home all day makes it really hard to be able to do that, and totally understandable. It's a really difficult thing. But overall, I wouldn't be able to guess whether it had gone up or down overall. There's been some increases and some decreases.
I'd be interested to know from the chat if anyone is contributing more. So Simon said he's definitely been contributing more. we've noticed a trend on GitHub itself that there's an increased usage of GitHub in a day, like an extra hour overall, like in general. And we think that is a lot of it's probably due to people not commuting. So they might not be working longer, but they don't have that commute time, so they're able to do a bit more. I'd be really interested to know what other people are doing during this time as well. Are you contributing more to open source? I know some of my teammates are. I know one of them took a week off work and ended up just coding for the whole week, because if you take a week off work now, what else do? You can't really go anywhere, right? Like, you do all the things that you don't get time to do during work. So, build more Lego, right?
Yes, that's, sure, that's, you kind of have to take some pleasure time as well, but it's, I think certainly for folks who enjoy contributing to open source, and often, like, a lot of WordPress's contributors are not developers in their day job, and so their open source contributions are more of like a hobby thing that they just do because they enjoy the challenge, or enjoy the community, or just enjoy being able to contribute to something.
Well, I like that topic. Let's go with that. So, if you are at home and you have more time to spare, how could people contribute to WordPress? Let's jump into the website and you can walk us through it.
Wow.
So I'm a new person. I'm a new developer. So, just right now, just pretend
first of all,
I'm new.
You'd probably be on WordPress.org.
Okay, let's go to WordPress.org. Yep, cool. So I've got some free time today, and I'm going to contribute to WordPress right now. You're going to tell me what I would do if I wanted to contribute.
Up on the top menu bar, there's the Get Involved button.
Get involved. Okay, so for everyone who doesn't have the link, WordPress.org. Then you would go to Get Involved, which is make.wordpress.org.
That's make.wordpress.org, and that kind of lists out the various areas where you can contribute to WordPress. I think WordPress is a huge project, and it's been around for such a long time that we're kind of fortunate enough to have entire teams for these various areas within WordPress. So whether you're a developer, or whether you're a writer or a marketer or a support engineer, or you're a translator, or you're I've said designer. What else have we got? We've got video. We've got training teams. We have a community just for people who host, like the large WordPress hosts.
This is actually what I love about open source, and I actually want you to tell me what your thoughts on this are, Gary. Because a lot of people think that, I need to be a developer to contribute to open source. And I often say, like, well, no, you don't. Let's just disregard even WordPress just for example. Even just any open source repo still needs documentation done, right? It still needs ideas, and it still needs, like, people to think and come up with, like, cool solutions and stuff, right? And I think going back to WordPress now, you guys have, like, really nailed it with this. Like, okay, yeah, sure, there's code, but code is only one of however many 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, about 20 different areas that you can contribute on WordPress, right? And so you don't have to be a developer. This is what I think is so exciting about open source.
That's something that we've really found as such an important thing with managing an open source project, is that the code contributions they're such a tiny part in the grand scheme of things. Like, they're an important part. You need the product to be able to have the thing at all, but to be able to have the community, but to the work that goes on around that product, like, that's the thing that actually makes it a community that people want to be involved in, that people want to contribute to.
100%. And in the chat, both B Dougie and YG Dev has talked about opensourcefriday.com. Do you know about that at all, Gary?
I have seen that. That's a really cool initiative.
And have you used it at all, or seen it?
I haven't.
Checked it out?
I haven't used it. Like, I've checked it out, but I haven't actually used it to find things to contribute to. Again, like, I kind of my job is open source, so I don't really have a lack of options. But it's it's a really cool way of finding things to contribute to.
So this is something that I believe, B-Dog, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe GitHub actually started this, and now it's just completely community run. So we started it as a way for people, because often, Friday's the end of the week, Friday's the day you can often sometimes get things done. Don't commit to master on a Friday, so don't commit to your own master, commit to someone else's master. And I think,
I like it.
Yeah, like that? Yeah, cool. I literally just came up with that then. You can have that one. Like B-Doggy saying actually came from former teammates. So this is before I joined. And they came up with this initiative for people to contribute to software. And so it's all over the world. You can join in whenever, well, on a Friday. And it's really great. There you go. Code is loved by GitHub and friends. Let's have a look at all the contributors actually, which is really exciting. And so as part of this, there you go, look at it all, it's crazy. And so as part of this Open Source Friday, we thought we would take this to the virtual realm for days like this. And so that's why I've got Gary here talking about WordPress on a Friday, talking about open source. We've had, who did we have last week? B-Doggy. But we had a Tim last week. I can't remember. I was so involved in the chat I couldn't even remember where he was from. I wasn't the one giving the talk then, it's okay. Oh, that's right, dry.rb. And we going to have more people like this, so if you're a maintainer, let us know if you're keen to do this. So Gary, we've got probably a few minutes left while some more questions come through, but what would be some of your top tips for maintainers, whether it's maintaining the code yourself, getting contributors, building a community? Tell us some of your top tips.
I think, wow, there are, even for a solo, someone who's maintaining something on their own, you want to automate as much as possible. You all of your tests, you should have lots and lots of tests. I know they can feel like a bit of a drudge to write, but they are absolutely worth it. They will save your skin on many, many occasions. Automate everything, and documentation, and make your documentation easy to follow, welcoming. Let people know, because there will be people going through Open Source Friday or however they happen to find your project, and they'll want to contribute, but if they don't know how, then they might not do it. But if you have a pretty clear guide of, hey, here's our issues that are good for folks who just want to get started. Here's our good first bugs. That's an important thing. Having options as well for people who, don't just think about developers. Think about designers. Think about how you could, if someone is a designer and they want to be able to put in a little bit of time into your project, think about what are the things that they could make your project look better. Think about what the documentation needs. What can you improve? Don't just think about the code.
I think the documentation is just so important. I was at a talk at RubyConf earlier this year, literally one of the last conferences I go to before it shut down. And one of the girls gave such a good talk on documentation and how bad documentation or just incomplete documentation can really just mess up everything you're doing. So it's just such an important thing. Now, you did mention community building and stuff. So each project has its community profile, right? And
yep.
Well, actually, let's have a look at the WordPress one. Where's your WordPress one? Is it just github.com/WordPress?
github.com/WordPress, yeah.
And you can show me where your community profile is. So it's 20% code and 80% documentation, which is hilarious. I love that. So you can pin everything here. You can curate what's happening down here. You've got all this documentation, which is amazing. How have you kind of curated what's shown on your WordPress page? Right?
So we have the main WordPress repository. We actually we self-host that. So we host that on WordPress.org, and then we mirror that to GitHub. So that's the WordPress develop repository. And so that's, however, that's not to say that you actually have to use the WordPress tools. You don't have to develop patches. We've set it up so that you can contribute with pull requests on the repository instead. And so the pull requests just mirror back to our infrastructure, and the person who finally merges it will deal with the little bit of work there. But otherwise, if you prefer working with GitHub, then, or working in like a GitHub interface, then you can do that. You don't have to deal with some of the more ancient processes that we have just by virtue of being a very old project.
Definitely, and we've got some new cool things coming for GitHub as well. So on this community one here, you can see on Open Source Friday, they've got their community profile here, which is great. We're rebuilding some of this so you can create it a little bit better and a little bit more. You can show off certain people, you can pin certain posts, you can like do some really cool things. Now, one of the guys has mentioned in the chat, because he's been watching my presentations during Microsoft Build, and I'm interested to see if you know much about this yet. Gary, have you heard about our GitHub Discussions yet?
GitHub Discussions, I did see something about that, but I haven't looked into it yet.
It's only just been announced, it's not even out yet, but I have it on my profile, which is cool. So we'll use it, and I'm actually interested to hear from your point of view how you would use this as a maintainer in your open source. So this is just a little repo that I built with just some info on the sessions I was doing. But the main one we want to look at is discussion. So I've got discussions enabled on this repo. When this goes live in the middle of the year, everyone will be able to enable discussions. So it's like, it comes up like a tab. So you've got all your issues, pull requests and things along here. And then you've got discussions here. And then some of the people have been in discussions. So you'll probably know this, Gary. You can give me an example if you like, or just nod your head and just yell down the camera about how frustrating it is. The times that you've had issues and they turn into more discussion things. So issues were fundamentally built right to help productivity. You would post an issue or bug or something, and people would post back how to fix it, right? Or yes, I'm fixing it. Have you experienced yourself, either in WordPress or your own development, those issues turning into long-winded discussions about random features, requests, acknowledging people, things like that?
Oh, of course, and it's there. If there's no other venue for that discussions, and these kind of discussions are important. So if there's no specific venue for them, then issues is kind of it.
It's the only way that they go, right?
We've certainly seen that. Like WordPress, we have forums as well, and we use Slack for general communication too. So we kind of provide those other avenues, but that's also, again, we've been around for a while and we can kind of set up all those things. But having just for anyone who's having an open source, who has an open source thing, and they're going to get discussions in issues. So having a place for them is a much better way to do it.
Now, you mentioned having like all the Slack and forums and stuff set up, and I was asking people in the chat when I was presenting yesterday if they had this issue, and everyone's like, yes. It kind of gets to the point when you go, we should really move this over to Teams, or we should move this to Slack, and you're like, okay, that's definitely become not an issue. So what we've done, we noticed that was a bit of a thing in people using GitHub and just putting it, as you mentioned, in issues because no other place to do it. So we've come up with this new feature called Discussions, launching in the middle of the year. And it's a way for you to essentially just have discussions or conversations in GitHub. Now, it looks very similar to and if anyone wants to try it out, this is open sourced on my repo, so you can go in and start a discussion or whatever. But it looks like an issue. So look at this one, there's like 31 comments on it. And it looks like an issue, so I can open it up just like I would an issue, but people can reply to it. So this one's a reply, and you'll see like nested threads. You'll see people are giving emojis. I've marked this one as the answer, so I can see here that's being answered. So if you say you run a conference, and Gary, I know you're running like meetups and things, you might have questions from your meetups, and you can go, oh yeah, here's the answer, just like you would in a forum. And I think this is going to be something, I mean, everyone who's seen it so far is like, I think it's pretty good. YG is saying, check the last comment. It's probably just him putting some stuff in there. Enable code spaces. Yes, we will do code spaces. That's another new thing we won't talk about now. But we think this is going to be a really powerful tool for developers and maintainers like yourself to be able to have all that and like move it from an issue into discussions. And speaking of that, we actually have that as a feature as well. So you can actually convert an issue into discussion if it becomes not an issue, and vice versa. You can convert a discussion into an issue. So that's one thing we've got coming.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Right, other top tips. So you've mentioned contributing. You've mentioned getting involved in a community. We've talked about contributing if you're not a developer. And we've just talked about having those, how to actually get started. And we posted those couple of links to get started. Make.wordpress.org. And if you're just tuning in now, it's there. So any other top tips for people before they go?
Other top tips are testing. Like if I'm like I might get a bug report or something like that on particularly on my personal stuff, then it has nowhere near the number of people looking at it that WordPress does. So if I have a pull request I've done a fix for a bug in it, and I think it works. Like I've written it how I think we'll fix it, but one of the, like I find for maintaining personal projects, one of the most helpful things I can get from other people is them just checking it out. If they use whatever the software is, then see if it works for them. And if it works for them, cool. That kind of helps to make sure that it's that I'm doing the right thing. If it doesn't work, it improves it.
Awesome. I like it. So make sure you test. Everyone test. Just like don't commit to master on a Friday. Don't do anything without testing. Make sure you test.
Head into pull requests and just check some of them out and test them and see if they do what they're supposed to do.
Does it do what it's supposed to? I love that thing. I've just started doing some live coding on my streams as well. And I hit the button to like compile the code or do stuff, and you sit there and you're like, is it gonna work? Is it gonna work? And sometimes it works and I get really excited on stream, and sometimes it just fails and you're like, oh.
I don't know. I don't think I could do live coding. Like it's 90% of my coding is, I broke that. Oh, I broke that.
Yeah.
Oh, I broke that.
Or people like in the chat as well, like, oh, you missed a semicolon there, or you spell things. So for me, semicolons and spelling things wrong are like my two big things why things don't work. But I'll tell you what's worse than live coding: playing Minesweeper on stream.
Wow,
is worse than live coding.
That is high pressure.
I've had people in the chat, and like we got to like, because we've been playing on 99. I did it for my birthday stream. We went back to some old school games, and people in the chat were just like, we got to like the 99 and we had one bomb left. It was 2 squares. It was literally a 50-50 chance. And everyone's like, and like, and we messed it up. I was like, go again. And one of the guys was like, no, please no. My heart can't take it anymore. So that was definitely my high. I think I nearly like hyperventilated and passed out on stream because I was like, I was so upset that we missed this mine. But yes, live coding on stream is also something that is fun and brilliant. And Martin's just jumped in the chat and said, I'm not smart enough to do live coding. People don't want to see me copying and pasting from Stack Overflow.
I mean, to be fair, like a fair bit of my day is like search why have I done this wrong, and I get a Stack Overflow answer. Like, oh, cool, that's how I should have done it. I know, right? So tell me, I want to hear your thoughts on this, Gary. Like, so I'm chatting to one of the developers at GitHub a little while ago, and he's like, yeah, 50% of your development time is spent just Googling. I was like, I like that, yeah. Like it's kind of like, it's not so much that you don't know you don't know what you're looking for. You know what you're Googling for. You just don't know exactly what the answer is. Yeah. Just using Google as an extension to your brain. And like, why not, right? It's a resource that's out there. And so his follow-up comment to that was, all technical interviews should allow you to Google answers. Yeah, and he's like, well, it's what you're going to do in your job. Like, why not? And I was like, that is so smart.
So if
mean,
you ever had
that's
to interview someone for a technical role, would you let them Google an answer?
I mean, at Automatic, we don't have that kind of live interview thing for technical parts. Like we do projects. We do project-based things.
There you go. Everyone apply for a job at WordPress.
You can take your time, actually like use your normal development flow.
And I think that is like so much better, right? Rather than sitting someone down and being like, all right, solve this thing in half an hour. And you're like, well, okay, like that.
Yeah.
How often do you actually have that happen in a job? Like, yeah,
No,
sure, you
like,
might go,
never.
oh, I don't know, you probably had this happen, or maybe not, but at least heard of it. Oh, Gary, WordPress is down, fix it. And you're like, cool, call everyone in the team. Let's work this out. You can't work it out together as a team, right? But I don't think there's ever a time where you just like solve this thing in 5 minutes and give me a perfect answer with the exact lines of code you need with all the comments in it and be flawless, and it has to work before you even test it. And it's like,
yeah, that's never going to happen in real life. So why would you include that in an interview?
yeah, and I think Martin said too, like hiring by Google Flow is a good idea. Some people are amazing at it and they find the right thing. And the reason I brought this up is because I was looking at a tweet today from someone saying that they often get pulled into technical interviews when they're not, when it wasn't supposed to be a technical interview, or get curveballed, or we're just gonna have an initial chat, come in, and then it ends up being like a 4-hour technical interview, and like no one was prepared for it, and they're like, well, this is not realistic. So
that's pretty rude.
Yeah, I mean, I know for anyone who applies for a technical role at GitHub, we don't do the whole technical interview thing either. There is a technical component, but it's not the whole sit down and solve this thing. And I love YG's comment in the chat, which is, if Stack Overflow is down, I'm dead.
That's fair. That's fair. Like I would assume you'd see that at GitHub. Like if Stack Overflow went down, then suddenly the number of commits on GitHub would drop as well.
Probably. I don't know. For the people who've been around for longer than I have, has there been a time when Stack Overflow has gone down and the number of GitHub commits have gone down? Let's have a look at this. I like Googling things. Again, we Google answers, right?
That's exactly it. That's how we do it.
Stack Overflow goes down. Let's see what's like. I mean, if it happens, people would like, oh, here we go. On February the 16th, 2014, Stack Overflow goes down. Programmers around the world panic. It's okay, it's back up now.
Yeah. That's going to be the thing. If Stack Overflow goes down, then all you can do is just make memes about Stack Overflow being down. Which is
what has happened, like, right? I have no idea what I'm doing. Because Stack Overflow is down. Well, down. Might as well pack up and take the day off. My career is on hold.
I like the honesty there.
Yeah, I know, right? And I came to work on a Sunday and Stack Overflow is down. Everyone panicked. And I like this. They end on with, don't worry, the site's back up and running. So if you thought you had a snow day, you'll probably have to find another excuse now. So yeah, there you go. So
yeah, cool.
I mean, if you're gonna work for another company or invest shares in someone else, Stack Overflow is a good one, because clearly it's not going anywhere, right?
Yes, it's an important part of every programmer's brain.
100%. Well, we better let you get back to your commits. Don't commit to milestone on a Friday.
No.
Your 2 kids and building some Lego. But is there any final thoughts or things you'd like to leave all us lovely people with, all the people awesome in the chat who've been sitting around for the last couple hours? Like Open Source Friday is a great thing. If you have time to commit to contributing to open source projects, that is, you are doing your favorite open source maintainer a huge favor. Please do that. But also, we are living in weird times, so take care of yourself. Don't push yourself. Don't burn yourself out. Definitely.
That's it.
Good words of advice. I really like it. And what was your other comment that I'm going to put on a bumper sticker is, I wear a suit to look good, not as a daily uniform. So everyone clip that. I love that comment from Gary. And it's definitely right. Martin says, thanks for taking the time to chat to us. So With that, we're nearly done. So
Yeah.
I want to thank you so much, Gary, for giving up your time, taking away time from your Lego and your
course.
kids and your commits to come chat to all of us. I want to thank everyone in the chat who's been excited, been engaged, having lots of conversations and sharing your own stories as well. And B Dougie shared your Twitter, Gary,
Yes.
in the chat. So go follow Gary.
Yep.
Gary's awesome. Don't forget to check out Code Spaces. Sign up for that. YG is already, heckling everyone to sign up. So go check that out and have a look at GitHub sponsors and sponsor cool people. And hopefully WordPress will be on there soon to sponsor. And and I just want to thank B Dougie and the other GitHubbers who have been in the chat moderating and sending all the cool things here. So thank you, Gary, and everyone else.
Thank you everyone for the wonderful questions.
All right.
And I'll see you on the internet.
Awesome. We'll see you all on the internet. Have a lovely, I think it's nearly Friday in America, and have a lovely Friday afternoon for all the Aussies and New Zealanders. We'll see you all next time. Don't forget to follow the GitHub channel for more cool, exciting content. Follow Gary on the socials. B Dougie's also put my Twitch in the channel, and we'll catch you all next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.